Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and this is how to make an RPG in Unity, and welcome to episode 13. So this episode, we're going to be doing some more cosmetic stuff to the game. So we'll be doing things like fade screens, we'll look at some extra cameras, because we'll look at cutscenes, and we'll also add in a little bit of artistic UI. So, for example, some extra fonts. So the idea of what I want to try and get to in this tutorial is to give the game a bit of a start. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a fade screen. So to do a fade screen, it's real easy. We go to game object, go to UI, and let's go to raw image. Now the fade screen is going to start off completely black. So double click the raw image there. I'm going to press F2 to rename, and we'll do it fade in. I'm going to change the color to black, so it'll fade all the way in from black. And I'm going to anchor it to a stretch position so it covers the entire screen when we zero everything out. So if we press play now, all we would see is a completely black screen. So to sort that out, what we're going to do is go into our animations folder and create a new folder, and let's call it cut scenes. And in here, what I'm going to do is make sure I have my fade in selected, go on to animation, go on to create, and let's call this 0. In fact, no, we'll just call it fade screen in. Save. Press the record button and make sure we're on frame 0. And we want the color to be completely 255 on the alpha, which is this one here. So 255 means it's completely opaque. Having it set to 0 means it's completely transparent. Anything in between is translucent. So we want to overwrite this with 255 and hit enter. And then we can close that. So we're going to fade into the game over the course of, let's say, 1 second. So let's change the frame to number 60. Hit enter. Back to the color over here. And let's change that to 0. And then click the X, and then press the record button, and that's that done. So back to the project window, and we need to remove the animator and put in animation as we normally do. So right click, remove component, then add component. Let's type in anim, add in animation, drag and drop our animation clip, size to 1, and drag and drop fade screen again. And obviously, last thing we need to do here is change it to debug, legacy, and then just play once. So back to normal and once. So now when we press play, we should fade into our game. Perfect. So once we've faded into our game, let's add some extra cameras to make a bit of a cutscene. So to do that, I'm going to disable our first person controller. So FPS controller, untick. And now currently there are no cameras actually noticing the game. So if we press play, you'll see, well, okay, so we do have the main camera up here. We should have actually removed that quite a while ago, so I think I'm going to remove it now. And hopefully when we press play now, we should be able to see that no cameras are rendering. If you get that, that's exactly what we want. So let's create a little cutscene. So I'm going to double click on Heart 1 to zoom into it. And what I'd like to do, oops, I've moved that there, let's move that back, is start with the camera panning across this grass here and onto this building. So, game object, camera, and you can see the camera preview here, so let's rotate it 90 degrees, minus 90 degrees that is. And let's pull it in a touch. And I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll get the camera to kind of move along the Z axis here as the first bit of the cutscene. So, animation, and make sure you do have the camera selected. Click on create, and let's just call this cam 1 scene 1, and save, and press record. And first keyframe, we'll set the position on the Z, which is going to be right there. So we'll just have it as, actually it's not the Z, is it? My apologies. We need to bring it this way. So I think, sorry, I'm just playing with the wrong one here. On the X it would be, because we're zooming in. You can see it on the camera preview down the bottom corner what it would be like. So this is what we're going to aim for. So let's have it set as 67. So you set that first keyframe, make sure everything is set red there. And we'll zoom this in over the course of, let's say, 5 seconds. So 5 seconds would make it the 300th frame. So hit enter. Now what we want to happen is by the time we're at 5 seconds, we want the camera to be about here. So let's move it there. Move this all the way to make sure the keyframe is set, and then hit the record button. Back to project, remove animator, add animation, size is 1, and same again, it's cam 1, scene 1, just set everything as we need to, and then set to legacy and once. So debug, legacy, back to normal, rep mode, once. And I'm going to save my project there just to be on the safe side. So what I'm going to do at this point is bring in some audio. And the audio I'm going to bring in is some scene music. So I'm going to drag and drop into Unity. And it lasts about 20 seconds, I believe. So we're going to make this cutscene 20 seconds long. So let's get on with our second camera. And game object, camera. And now let's have this camera pan around on the axis about here. So we'll start about there and let's have it looking downwards. And I'm going to pan it around for about 10 seconds. So once we've got the camera in the position, make sure we're in the animations folder in the cutscenes, and then animation, create. Yeah, we've done this a few times, so you can create as many animations as we need to. And I'm going to put cam 2, scene 1, and save. Press record. Let's set the rotation as -108 on the Y. Hit enter. So by 10 seconds, it's going to be 600th frame. Hit enter. So by the 600th frame, I want it to have panned to about here. And that'll do just perfect. And stop the recording. Project. And then remove. So I'm going to do this real quick now because I don't want to waste too much time in this. You guys know what to do at this point. Camera 2. Size 1. Camera 2 again. And debug, legacy, normal, and once. I'm going to save again. So I'm going to have one more camera, which does just 5 seconds, I think. So we'll have game object, camera, and the third camera, I think I'll have looking at the forest over here. So let's bring it over here, rotate to there, and I'll just do rotation again, I think. So animation, create, and this is going to be cam 3, and save. And next thing, record, set the first keyframe, so we'll have -210 and the 300th frame. Let's have it looking at the forest about there. Perfect. So obviously, last thing, yet again, remove animator, add animation. You know this routine, how it is now. We've done animation, well, simple animation a couple of times now. So the idea of what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a routine for the camera system to work, and it's going to be done in the form of a C# script. So the way this is going to work ultimately is we set these two cameras off. In fact, let's rename them. Let's F2 that first one. Scene cam 1. Scene cam 2. And scene cam 3. So we have everything in place now. We just need to turn 2 and 3 off. Make sure we still have our fade in working, and what we're going to do is create a fade out now. So game object, UI, raw image again, F2, fade out. And this is pretty much just in reverse of what we've done. So the default color on the alpha is going to be 0 because we want it completely transparent. We need to stretch it across the screen, 0 everything out, and change the color to black. So animation again, create, and we'll call it fade screen out, save. And the great thing about this is once we have all these set up for the fading and fade out, we can use it as many times as we need to. So let's set the alpha 255 and then back to 0, hit enter. So then obviously by the 60th frame, which is 1 second, we want it to be completely black. So 255, hit enter, stop recording, project, yeah, this whole routine again. You'll dream about this, trust me. And it should be this one, I believe. Fade screen out, size 1. Fade screen out, and let's quickly set it how it should be. So we have everything in place now. So let's turn fade screen out off. Now let's create that script, which is going to do our whole routine. So let's go to our scripts folder down here and right click, create folder, and let's call this cut scenes. And in here, we're going to do create C# script scene 01. So in this script, we need to define a couple of variables. So first variable is going to be the camera 1. So public game object camera 1, and then camera 2 game object camera 2, public game object camera 3. Don't forget the semicolons there. And next one is going to be the fade out screen. So game object fade out semicolon, and we also need the fade in. So public game object fade in, and finally we need the player. So public game object the player semicolon. So this is going to work all through an enumerator. So in the void start, what we need to do is put start co routine, and in brackets let's have cut scene start, open close bracket, and semicolon. So then we need enumerator, and it's called, oops, I put an R there, it's cut scene start, open close bracket, open curly bracket. So let's run this routine all the way through. So I'm going to go down a couple of lines and put close curly bracket. So what we want to do is firstly yield return new wait for seconds. So we need to wait for 5 seconds, because when we start the scene, what's going to happen is the fade out screen is going to play, and so is the first camera, which lasts 5 seconds. So that whole routine is we have to wait for 5 seconds. Once that 5 seconds is up, we put camera 2 dot set active true semicolon. Next thing we need to do, we put camera 1 dot set active false. So we always put the camera on before we turn one off. Then we wait for another 10 seconds, because that camera 2 lasts for 10 seconds, doesn't it? So 10 seconds, and at that point camera 3 comes on, true, camera 2 goes off, and then we wait for another 5 seconds. So that's perfect. And at that point, in fact, what I think we'll do is we'll actually wait for 4 seconds, and then we will start the fade in. Is that right? That is right, isn't it? So the just trying to think. No, fade out we need, don't we? So fade out dot set active true semicolon, and at this point we need to yield return new, wait for seconds, and in brackets another 1 second, because the entire time we're waiting here is 5 seconds, semicolon, and at this point we need to put the player.setActive as true, and then we need to put camera 3 off, so that's false, semicolon, and save that script. So let me think here. So we've got fade in. So first thing we're going to want to do is, after this 5 seconds, just double check that we turn fade in off. So fade in dot set active false, semicolon, because what we'll do is, as we are turning the player on, we'll also fade in the game, so we can reuse that animation. So fade in dot set active true, semicolon, and save that script. So what I'll do is I will add a game object, and I'll move it to just here. It's just an empty game object, and our music is going to be attached to this one object. So right click, rename, and scene music, just so we don't really need to play around with it too much. We don't need to incorporate it into a script. We can bring it straight onto there. We need to play automatically, and we don't want to loop it. Now I'm just going to turn my volume speakers down a little. I don't want this blasting too much. And final thing we'll do is game object, create empty, and we'll do cut scene object, and we just need to attach that script onto there. So let's find it onto there, and let's set our variables. So camera 1 on there, camera 2, camera 3, fade out, fade in, and player. So let's save our project and let's give this a go. Fingers crossed this works. So far so good, guys. It's just simple music I put together in FL Studio. It's nothing too amazing. It's just something I did for this. Okay, so we have an error there. What I've forgotten to do is actually turn off fade out. So fade out needs to be turned off just after fade in is set active. So that is the last thing we need to do, and that cutscene should work just fine. So I'm going to let this cutscene play out, and what we're going to do is quickly add in some extra UI to show that this is such a place, and we'll probably carry on with it next episode as well. So fingers crossed now, guys. This is the end. Perfect. So now our game is set. So there we have a cutscene. So the last thing we'll do is game object, UI, text. I'm going to double click on that text, get it into position nice and quickly, and let's have it center. And I'm going to have it a kind of a grey colour, a light grey colour. And what I'll do is I'm going to import a font. So let's create a folder for fonts. And the font I'm using, I'm not going to include on the website because it's just a commercially free font that you can go onto Google and just download. You can use any font at all. I've already got a fonts folder. Okay, so we're going to use this font. So text, and let's just drag and drop the font onto there. And let's just have a look. Perfect. So let's make it much bigger. Let's have it size. Oh gosh, what size should we have it? 40. I think we need to make it just a little bit bigger as well. And I'm just going to call this, well, what I'll do is I'm going to call it Jimmy Town. So this is a little thing that's showing us where it is. So it's called Jimmy Town. It's in the center. That's fine. So we'll carry on incorporating this into our cutscene next episode. But I'm also going to Control D to duplicate that. Make it a little bit smaller. About there. And I'm just going to put the year. So we'll have, I don't know, AD 1717. Perfect. And let's see how that looks. Okay, so yeah, now we're getting some fancy font working into the cutscene. So we'll carry on with that next episode. But next episode, we are going to look at some crosshairs and we're going to start looking at enemies. So I've got a cool spider that I want to bring in as our first enemy, which we can hack and slash away with the sword that we created. So next episode is going to be a lot of fun, guys. So until then, thank you very much for watching.